Coming up, the top elected officials in 3 of the state's biggest metro areas. County Judge Clay Jenkins from Dallas, Glen Whitley from Tarrant County, and Nelson Wolff from Bexar County on challenges and opportunities this new year brings. The Texas legislature reconvenes in 9 days. What to expect in a session that will look unlike anything we've seen before. We're just starting 2021, but already candidates are jockeying for 2022. Ross Ramsey on the people he's watching that might be on your ballot. And the political trends to keep an eye on in this new year. Mainly, what will post-Trump politics really look like?
Inside Texas Politics with Jason Whiteley starts now.
Good Sunday morning and Happy New Year to you. Already a lot to keep track of in this new year. The very first date is going to be this coming Wednesday. That's when Congress will accept the results of the Electoral College. This is the last procedural step in President-elect Joe Biden's road to the White House. We are now 9 days away from the next legislative session. Texas lawmakers gavel back into session a week from Tuesday on January the 12th. And the first order of business, besides being sworn in, is electing a new speaker. 2 weeks from Wednesday, another big date. President-elect Joe Biden will take the oath of office to become the 46th president of the United States. The inauguration is on Wednesday, January 20th, and you can see it live right here. We are beginning this new year, though, with 3 county judges in Texas. Together, they represent 6.5 million residents of this state and already eyeing opportunity in 2021. The first of the 3 is with us right now. It's Clay Jenkins, a Democrat in Dallas County. Judge Jenkins, good to see you again.
Great to see you.
But before we talk about 2021, let's look back at 2020. Looking back at the pandemic, do you wish you would have done anything differently in the response?
You know, I think we followed the science here in Dallas County. We listened to what our doctors said, and that served us well. I do wish we had known more information about masks sooner.
Looking ahead, Judge, when do you think that just ordinary folks in Dallas County will start getting the vaccine?
You know, the hope is that we'll be finished with this first wave of healthcare heroes and nursing home populations, say by the end of January, and we'll begin working through other healthcare folks with an eye towards getting to the general population by the end of the first quarter, so end of March.
And considering that, do you think by the end of the year that the pandemic might be behind us?
You know, I do, and that's my hope and my fervent prayer. And a lot of that is going to depend on us using the 2 vaccines that we have at our disposal until we get the shot. One is to wear that mask when we're around other people, and the other is to listen to what the doctors are telling us we need to do and use our good decisions. If we'll do those things, we'll knock these numbers down, and the faster we knock the numbers down and we get that vaccine out to people, those 2 things together will end this pandemic.
Judge, let's talk politics for a moment here, too. The legislature reconvenes here shortly. What's on your legislative wish list for 2021?
You know, I hope that they will recognize that when anyone doesn't have health care, that is an existential threat really to all of us on public health. And so I hope Texas will join the majority of the vast majority of the rest of the country, find some way to take our portion of that Medicaid money for Medicaid expansion back here to Texas, have a Texas solution for that so we have more coverage for people. Because we really saw during this pandemic, when you have a big uninsured population, everybody, even the people with insurance, do worse in these public health situations like a pandemic.
Yeah, of course, expanding Medicaid certainly might be a big topic here for this session. Another topic that people are talking about now that lawmakers might consider in Austin is casinos. Would you support those in Dallas County?
I don't support casinos personally. I've looked at the issue, and this is just Clay personally. I think they generally don't do a whole lot to generate income. The lottery, on the other hand, does generate some income for schools, but the casinos generally don't generate a lot of income for services. But there are some concomitant problems that come along with those casinos. So I don't think that would be something I'd support at this time.
Your term is halfway up. Do you plan on running for re-election again in 2022?
Right now, Jason, I'm just focused on doing the job to the very best of my ability every day. It is my honor every day to serve people. I enjoy doing that, but I really haven't thought much about politics. I'm just thinking about how to get that vaccine out there, how to keep you safe.
If you got a call from the Biden administration as they're trying to fill posts, would you take a job in D.C.?
I don't think I would. Well, I think anytime your president calls on you, you have to listen. My personal preference is to stay here. I'm a Texan. I like the climate here. I like the people here. And I've got a job to do here that I've got to finish. So I'm focused on that job.
All right, Judge, thanks for the time.
Thank you, and have a very happy holidays.
County judges will be on the ballot again in 2 years, and we'll pick up our conversation with them in just a moment. But first, let's look ahead. Yes, we're almost 2 years away from that election in 2022, but right now is when people decide to become candidates or try for higher office. Ross Ramsey has his ear to the ground on these kind of issues. He's the co-founder and executive editor of the Texas Tribune. Good morning to you, Ross.
Good morning, Jason. How are you?
Doing well here in Dallas. Happy New Year to you. The governor, lieutenant governor, plenty of others are on the ballot in 2 years in 2022. Do you expect that we'll see the Democrats put up any tough candidates to challenge them?
I think we would have been more likely to see that if the Democrats had had a pretty good year in 2020. 2022 is going to be the first year after redistricting. The Republicans are drawing the maps. That should be good for them. It's going to be a midterm for a Democratic presidential administration with Biden in the White House. That's going to be good for them. That might put the brakes on some Democrats. But everybody's ambitious in politics, and we'll know as the year progresses who's getting in line.
No doubt a lot of ambition. But one question that a lot of people are curious about in the new year is, what does post-Trump politics look like? Will the new year bring political compromise?
I think the question is going to be, what do the 74 million people who voted for Donald Trump want to do? And the Republicans who are left when Trump leaves are going to be following those voters. In fact, the reason that they haven't crossed Trump very many times is for fear that Trump's voters might get mad. Those are the voters who control the party right now.
Good point. We'll be watching. Ross, thanks. Back to you in a moment. Coming up, Tarrant County Judge Glen Whitley joins us from Fort Worth. He's a Republican who has disagreed with Governor Abbott and his own public health team. And we'll go to San Antonio to speak with Bexar County Judge Nelson Wolff. He's planning to retire after almost 50 years in Texas politics. You're watching Inside Texas Politics. If you haven't already made a New Year's resolution, consider this. Subscribe to our podcast. It's called Y'all-itics. Every week, co-host Jason Wheeler there and I, we crack open a Texas beer, spend time learning about a single topic in Texas with different guests from all across the state. If you haven't listened yet, we have 68 episodes in the can. Grab your phone if it's handy. You can browse them right now. Just aim your phone's camera at the QR code there on your screen. It will open a new window and take you directly to the library of all of our Y'all-itics episodes. And while you're there, take a moment and subscribe to it as well. Let's continue our conversations right now with the top county judges in Texas. Our next guest is Glen Whitley. He is the county judge in Tarrant County, a Republican who represents 2 million Texans. Judge, good to see you.
Good to see you, Jason. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well. Pull out your crystal ball, your magic 8 ball, whatever you use. Judge, give us an idea of how much longer you think this pandemic is really going to hold Texans hostage.
I think if we'll all do our part, if we'll wear the masks, if we'll wash our hands, if we'll social distance and get the vaccine when it's available, then hopefully when we celebrate Independence Day, maybe we can also celebrate independence from COVID-19.
Let's hope you're right on that. I want to ask you about the legislative session coming up here very briefly. State lawmakers are already talking about local control and maybe limiting further limits to cities and counties. What out there legislatively on the horizon concerns you?
Well, the fact that they're continuing their assault on local control is a big concern. Texas is a huge state. We have 254 counties. We have thousands of cities and towns, over 28 million people. And the wants of the citizens in Azle are different than they are in Arlington. Tarrant County is different than Travis County. And for that matter, Texas is different than Tennessee. I always have strongly supported local control. and advocated that elected officials be allowed really to represent the citizens at their respective levels.
Well, what do you say to Governor Abbott and other Republican leaders in the state who think the opposite, though? How do you convince them that with this pandemic now, as an experience, that local control is really what's needed in situations like this?
Well, I think if they'll look at this pandemic, they'll see that, again, Tarrant County is much different than even Parker or Palo Pinto County, just to our immediate west. Local folks know what their needs are. And in this particular area, it's how to deal with the pandemic. But when we're not in this, again, it goes back to folks in Arlington may want something much different than in Azle. Azle citizens may want to be more out in the rural area. Arlington wants the entertainment centers. So there's differences, and that's why they elect the local elected officials and then give them the ability to do what they elected them to do.
Well, Judge, speaking of entertainment, there's talk this session of potentially introducing casinos into this state. Is that something you would support in Tarrant County?
Well, I'd have to look at it. I'm not sure at this point in time yet whether that's the thing we need to be doing. But again, I'm going to try to stay in our lane. That's something I know that as the legislature looks at revenue sources, that's one of the ones they're going to consider. The one thing that I want them to do is I want them to substantially lower our property tax bill. Texas ranks 13th among all the states, 13th highest in property taxes, and that's just way too high. If the state would pay for public education, we could cut our property taxes in half, and we'd move from 13th to 42nd when you rank us among the states. We shouldn't accept anything less. In the past, they've talked about property taxes, but they've curbed the growth and not really cut the taxes.
Yeah, I'm all with you on the property taxes in this state. I know thousands of Texans are as well, too. Last question, the last 30 seconds or so here. It's been an exhausting year for so many elected officials. What's next for you? Are you going to run again?
I'm not sure. I certainly didn't sign up for this one the last time I ran. And I just have to say that, I've got till, I guess, the end of 2021, the end of this year, to make that decision, and we'll just get there and see what happens at that point in time.
All right, Judge Whitley, good to see you. I'm glad we share a similar last name, though I've probably been confused for you quite a few times. Good to see you.
It goes both ways, Jason. Good to see you. Have a happy new year.
Yes, sir. You too. We appreciate it. Our next guest this morning has spent almost 50 years in Texas politics. Nelson Wolff is the county judge in Bexar County, a Democrat representing 2 million Texans in and around San Antonio. He's a former state senator, a state rep, and the former mayor of San Antonio as well. Judge, thanks for the time. It's good to see you.
Yeah, good to be with you.
We're starting off the new year with a vaccine. The question a lot of people have is, will the pandemic be behind us at the end of 2021?
I believe it will. It's going to take a while to get there, though, because right now it'll probably take the first few months of 2021 to take care of all the healthcare workers, first responders, nursing homes, people with severe underlying health issues.
Judge, restaurants and bars are obviously hurting there in Bexar County. As you know, tourism is a huge industry there for the city of San Antonio and for Bexar County itself. When do you see all of that coming back to life?
It's going to be a while. First of all, as soon as the vaccine kicks in and people feel safe, then I think local residents will continue to go back to restaurants. They're hurting now. Then I think it'll take maybe 2 years, 3 years for the industry, tourism industry to come back.
Wow, 2 to 3 years?
I think so. After the 9/11 attack, it took the airlines 2 years to get back to where they were before the attack. This is much more devastating. And I believe a lot of companies and a lot of, they're going to be reluctant to send 5,000 people and spend that much money. So it's going to take a while for the tourism industry to come back. Drive up traffic, yes, but not the big tourism. It's going to take 2 or 3 years.
Judge, obviously one of the major draws is the Alamo there in San Antonio. it seems to have stalled the project to kind of renovate all around it. The fencing has been up there for going on 8 months now. When I last visited a month or so ago, there's no resolution in sight from what I can see. I'm curious what you think is going to take to finally get this thing completed, to get the state on board, get the city on board, and push this over the finish line.
Well, I have my strong feelings on it. Number one, I think our plaza is just as important as the Alamo. And if you lock everybody off, you've taken away the greatest gathering place for people in San Antonio. I think the historic buildings that are next to it, the Crest building, where we had the counters open up to African Americans, I think that's important to preserve. We have the leadership, well, I've not been happy with the way they've handled things. They can do it in the right way. They can close the street, but they could leave ballards where we could have our parade every year. I mean, that's an historic event. You don't take and destroy layers of history to go back to pick one you don't even know for sure it's right.
Judge, you said you're not running for re-election, and you have represented Bexar County in some form or fashion, either in the state Senate, state House, mayor of San Antonio. You've represented the county and people of San Antonio since 1971. I'm curious, now that you're not running for re-election, looking back, what are you most proud of?
Well, you know, there's been a lot of failures as well as wins. I still believe our restoration of the Mission Reach of the river, 8 miles long, the largest restoration of an urban river in the United States, putting the doorway to all the 4 missions, got us the historic designation from the UN. To me, that was one of the big ones. But we've done a lot of things over the years. But that one kind of sticks out as something that's going to be a really long-lasting legacy, and people are there all the time using it.
All right. Well, Judge Wolf, we appreciate your time and we appreciate your service as well. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Okay, bye-bye.
Coming up, Texas lawmakers are about to get their chance to respond to the pandemic. Will they formally loosen rules for restaurants and bars? There's a big push to do so, and that is one of our topics coming up next on the Roundtable.
This is Inside Texas Politics with Jason Whiteley.
Time now for Reporters Roundtable to put the headlines in perspective. Ross is back with us. Bud Kennedy from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram is here this week, and so is Bernadine Steptoe, the political producer at WFAA in Dallas. And Ross, we'll start with you in the new year here. There's obviously the legislature reconvening here in 9 days. How likely is it, do you think, that lawmakers look for new sources of revenue, things like casinos, marijuana, expanding Medicaid, things like that?
Well, the regular checklist is find ways to cut spending. If you can't find enough ways to cut spending, find ways to do some accounting tricks, and those are actually pretty effective at balancing a budget. And if you absolutely have to find some new money, they're not going to raise taxes. So they often go to what they call sin taxes, things like marijuana, which has worked in some other states, casinos, which have definitely worked in some other states. The casino folks have hired up a bunch of people to lobby this legislature, and it'll just hinge on how much they need money.
And Bud, exactly, Ross, it will hinge on that. But Bud, you know, Republicans have not been interested in legalizing marijuana. They haven't been interested in casinos for years. Has something changed?
I think that's going to be a reach, and also they're not going to spend that much time deliberating. The legislature will do some pretty basic work this session and go home unless things really lighten up. What I do expect is see some of the regulations that were loosened for the sake of COVID that will bring in more money to the state will continue to be loosened. Let restaurants sell liquor and mixed drinks to take home. Extend the hours that liquor can be sold. Raise some more liquor taxes. Maybe you'll let Tesla sell cars by mail order. Just everything that encourages more sales and more revenue for the state. The legislature has a chance to go ahead and loosen those regulations or keep those COVID rules that they put in place.
Bernadine, what do you expect to see?
I don't expect to see any casino or marijuana laws passed because remember, Texas is a very conservative state. And I don't think that those initiatives have any chance of passing, although lobbyists have been hired to champion those specific things. I think the Bud is right, that you're going to see more regulations loosened. You're going to see more taxes going up on items that the legislature can regulate. But as far as the sin taxes, I don't see those happening in Texas. And then the election shows the conservative vote is very powerful in Texas.
Indeed, the election does show that. Ross, I've heard a lot of people say this might be a quick legislative session, you know, quote unquote quick. What do you think?
Well, they've got 140 days max for a regular session of the legislature, so they would just start second Tuesday in January, go through Memorial Day or so. I think they might go to Memorial Day, but I don't think they'll meet every one of those 140 days. They're going to space this out a little bit. There's only so much social distancing you can do in the Capitol, and I think they're going to try to minimize their exposure while they have a full regular session.
Bud, Texas Republicans sat in silence, you know, during the last 4 years with President Trump. Do you think we're going to see now the Attorney General in the state suing the Biden administration for everything that it does?
Oh, I think they were very proud. You know, Governor Abbott, said proudly over and over that the first thing he did, he got up every morning and sued Barack Obama, and I think he'll continue to say that now. I think that and that's where the questions about the Attorney General will raise a little bit of a cloud over that. But I think that, you know, it'll be Texas versus Washington all over again. Washington will become the whipping boy.
Bernadine?
Yes. You know what? Abbott filed most of the lawsuits against President Obama. I think there were over 40, and he filed over 31 as Attorney General. And I think that one thing that you will find in this administration, you don't have Barack Obama or President Obama, where most of the conservatives or most of the Republicans in Texas just didn't like him. But you're going to see a lot of lawsuits filed because Abbott is still in control, and he filed most of the lawsuits.
And of course, we're waiting to see what happens with the Attorney General and the investigation that's apparently, allegedly against him as well, too. Thanks so much, guys. We appreciate it. Happy New Year to you all. Happy New Year to you. Thanks so much for joining us for this first episode of Inside Texas Politics in 2021. We'll see you again next Sunday.